Hi, I'm Toro, and this is the World in Series. Each episode in this series is a quiet journey through time, softly exploring the people, places, and events that shaped a single year in our shared history. So get comfortable, let your thoughts wander, and let's drift back to the world as it was. The world in 1917. Welcome, dear listener. This is Toro, and tonight I invite you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and drift with me into the year 1917. Imagine the world more than a century ago, when the pace of life was slower, when evenings were lit by lamps and hearths, and the hum of the modern world had not yet taken hold. In this journey, we will wander softly through history, pausing gently at scenes both quiet and grand, always with calm footsteps. Though the year carried moments of difficulty, we will cradle them in gentle words, letting them pass like clouds across a moonlit sky. Tonight, let us listen to the echoes of 1917, the way people lived, the discoveries they made, the art they cherished, and the headlines they read before bedtime. Together, we will explore the world as it once was, not with urgency, but with a peaceful curiosity. So settle in, feel your body sink into rest, and let the year 1917 unfold softly before you. World events. As the sun rose across 1917, the world was in the midst of deep changes. Nations continued to shift and stir, and although conflicts moved in the distance, life still sought calm places where peace could be found. In Russia, the beginning of the year brought winds of transformation. Crowds in snowy streets whispered of change, and before long, the monarchy gave way to new voices seeking to shape the country's future. Though the steps were uncertain, it marked a gentle turning of history's page. Imagine the sound of footsteps in snow-covered squares, echoing quietly beneath onion-domed churches as the old gave way to the new. Elsewhere, across the wide Atlantic, the United States found itself slowly stepping closer to world affairs. Letters and speeches filled the air, and by springtime, America had joined the great struggles overseas. For many families, it meant farewells at train stations, with quiet hopes carried in pockets and photographs. Yet at home, daily life continued with fields to till, factories to hum, and children to laugh in classrooms warmed by coal stoves. In France and Britain, the seasons passed with determination and care. Gardens continued to be tended, even as cities adjusted to the strains of the times. People found comfort in tea, in music, in the sharing of stories by firelight. Meanwhile, in distant lands, smaller ripples of history spread outward. In the Middle East, agreements and shifting borders quietly redrew maps. In Asia, Japan looked outward, shaping its path for the new century. In South America, nations strengthened trade and dreamed of their own bright futures. Natural events, too, painted the year. Storms rose and fell, rivers swelled and receded. Harvests came with their familiar rhythms. Through it all, the world held its breath, continuing its slow dance through time. And though 1917 is remembered for its turbulence, in the soft corners of life, there was still warmth. The turning of seasons, the lighting of candles, the steady ticking of clocks in parlors and halls. Daily life around the world. What was it like to live day by day in 1917? Let's wander gently across the world and see. In London, streets bustled with carriages and early motor cars. Women in long skirts and hats moved briskly between markets and shops. The scent of bread drifted from bakeries, and coal smoke curled into the sky from narrow chimneys. Children played hopscotch in alleys, their laughter bright against the muted gray of the city. Newspapers were folded neatly under arms, filled with the latest reports, but also advertisements for soaps, teas, and household goods. Crossing the ocean to America, we find small towns with wooden porches and hand-painted signs. Farmers rose early to tend to fields, while shopkeepers lifted shutters and swept sidewalks. In kitchens, breakfasts of porridge, eggs, and warm bread filled the air with comforting aromas. Telephones, still novel in many places, rang with crisp, mechanical voices, connecting families across miles. Further east, in Russia, the rhythms of village life remained tied to the land. Women wore scarves tied under their chins, and men worked with horses and wooden plows. In cities, trams rattled along frozen streets, while samovars hissed with hot tea in modest homes. Meanwhile, in Japan, life blended tradition with modern touches. Wooden houses stood alongside growing industries. Kimonos and soft silks brushed past factory uniforms, and in the evenings, lantern light shimmered across gardens with quiet grace. In South America, life pulsed with warmth and vibrancy. Markets were filled with fruit, spices, and lively chatter. Families gathered under the sun. Music drifted through open courtyards, and evenings ended with long conversations beneath starlit skies. Around the world, clothing carried the flavor of the time. Long coats, polished shoes, hats for men, and layered dresses for women. In grand cities, fashion shifted toward elegance with tailored lines. In rural corners, garments were simple, practical, and mended with care. The sounds of daily life were gentle and mechanical. The whistle of trains, the clatter of typewriters, the rhythmic clip-clop of horses' hooves, and the distant chiming of church bells. Together, these formed a steady soundtrack to life in 1917. A quieter, slower rhythm than the modern hum we know today. Science, inventions, and technology. Amid the turning of seasons, progress quietly unfolded. The year 1917 brought advances that hinted at the world to come. In medicine, discoveries were paving the way for healthier futures. Doctors studied bacteria, developed safer surgeries, and improved public sanitation. In hospitals, white-coated nurses tended to patients with calm efficiency, while new tools gleamed softly under lamplight. In transportation, automobiles were becoming more common, their engines puttering gently along cobbled streets. The hum of early trucks joined the timeless rhythm of horses, showing a world in transition. Airplanes, once fragile curiosities, were now gaining strength, their wings stretching confidently into the skies. Children tilted their heads upward in wonder, watching these mechanical birds soar. Electricity spread further, glowing from lamps and powering small appliances. The gentle buzz of early electric fans cooled warm rooms. Radios, still in their infancy, carried whispers of the future as inventors dreamed of voices traveling invisibly through the air. Typewriters clicked faithfully in offices, and photographs captured moments in black and white. Faces, landscapes, and gatherings preserved like pressed flowers for future eyes to see. Science, too, expanded its reach. Mathematicians and physicists explored hidden truths, while chemists mixed elements with curiosity. Each discovery was a small lantern lit against the unknown, guiding the way forward. To live in 1917 was to feel the hush of a world just before great leaps, a quiet, delicate pause between tradition and the promise of new invention. Culture and the arts. Even in times of uncertainty, culture bloomed like flowers in hidden gardens. In literature, writers captured the moods of the age. Novels and poems reflected both the weight of the times and the eternal wonders of love, memory, and beauty. Readers turned pages by lamplight, losing themselves in distant lands and imagined conversations. Music, too, carried hearts through the year. In parlors, families gathered around pianos, singing softly as notes drifted into the night. Phonograph records spun on turntables, filling rooms with the voices of singers and the melodies of orchestras. Jazz, still young, pulsed with energy in American cities, while classical performances graced elegant halls in Europe. On the stage, plays brought laughter and reflection. Curtains lifted, actors spoke, and audiences leaned forward, finding escape in shared stories. In cinema, silent films flickered on screens, their black and white images accompanied by live pianists who set the rhythm of each scene. Artists painted with both tradition and daring. Impressionist colors still shimmered, while new styles began to emerge. Canvases captured landscapes, portraits, and abstractions, each brushstroke a soft dialogue between artist and time. Culture in 1917 was not only grand, but also intimate. Lullabies sung to children, folk dances performed in villages, handmade quilts passed from hand to hand. These small acts of art stitched together the quiet fabric of everyday life. Media and headlines. If you were to pick up a newspaper in 1917, the ink would smudge lightly on your fingertips, the paper thin and crinkling. Headlines carried the weight of world affairs, but nestled between them were local notices, advertisements, and gentle trivia. A loaf of bread might be priced at just a few cents. Soap, shoes, and new gramophones filled the columns with promises of modern comfort. Magazines offered serial stories, recipes, and fashion plates, their illustrations graceful and full of detail. Readers could linger over advice columns, puzzles, and travel notes, small windows into both the ordinary and the aspirational. Though the larger world seemed restless, the media of 1917 also offered companionship. Words printed on paper, shared by lamplight, read aloud in kitchens, and tucked into coat pockets. People born and died. Every year welcomes new voices and bids farewell to others, and 1917 was no different. That year saw the birth of John F. Kennedy, who would one day walk the corridors of power as President of the United States, remembered for both his words and his vision. The world also welcomed Ella Fitzgerald, whose voice would one day soar like a songbird, bringing warmth and rhythm to countless listeners. Other births included future scientists, artists, and thinkers, each arriving quietly, unaware of the paths they would one day shape. In farewell, the year marked the passing of Edgar Degas, the French artist who had filled canvases with dancers, horses, and intimate scenes of life. His works, still glowing with movement and color, remained as gentle testaments long after his final days. These comings and goings reminded the world of continuity, the turning of generations like pages in an endless storybook. And so, as 1917 came to its close, the world stood on the edge of change. Frost touched rooftops, lamps glowed in windows, and people everywhere paused to reflect on the year that had been. It was a year of uncertainty, but also one of endurance, invention, and quiet moments of joy. Families looked forward to the future with both hope and patience. In parlors, voices sang carols. In churches, bells rang gently across snow-covered towns. In warmer lands, the year ended with festivals, music, and gatherings beneath starlight. Though the times carried challenges, the spirit of humanity pressed onward, seeking light, connection, and beauty. The year's inventions and art hinted at brighter horizons, while its stories of resilience whispered promises for the years yet to come. And so, 1917 drifted away, like a candle burning low at midnight, leaving behind both shadows and sparks of light. Ahead lay 1918, waiting to unfold its own chapter in history's long, gentle dream. Thank you, dear listener, for joining me on this quiet journey through the world of 1917. I hope the soft memories of this year have carried you closer to rest. If you enjoyed this bedtime history, please consider liking the video, subscribing to Toro's History Lullabies, and returning again for the next gentle chapter. For now, close your eyes, let the echoes of the past soothe you, and drift into dreams. Good night.